Well, after successfully dodging the question when it was brought up the first time during his interview with Tim Pool this week, in the final few minutes of the 2-hour stream, Steven Crowder admitted what I've been saying all along. And no, I'm not applying for a job at the Daily Wire. Anybody who thinks that obviously isn't familiar with my work. I'll get into them later. But thanks to Tim Pool's co-host Luke Rudowski not letting Steven Crowder weasel out with another non-answer, and thanks to my $250 in super chats I spent during the show trying to get Tim Pool to ask him this key question, we have now heard it from the horse's mouth. I'll play the clip in just a moment and you can see it for yourself that his story about walking away from $50 million is BS. His whole story is BS.
What would it take for you to walk away from $50 million? Because it's true. That's exactly what I did.
Actually, I have a bunch of clips because the false dichotomy, the lies that Steven Crowder has injected into the conservative media ecosystem, strictly for his own financial benefit after being left without a major network paying him, have spread far and wide. And people who don't know anything about how the business side of being a professional YouTuber works think that he's leading some selfless cause when the cause is to get him his $30 million a year, his counteroffer, which was rejected by the Daily Wire after their initial $12.5 million a year offer.
Some people are asking if it was the agent or you that counteroffered. That's what people are asking.
So they went, from my understanding with the agent is they said, okay, here's a number, and this is 100% of everything. And my agent, who is unbelievable, he's left the big agencies. He's gay, he's Latino, and he's to the right of Attila the Hun. He's Cuban. He also doesn't like Puerto Ricans, but that's the whole thing you have to ask him about because he's Cuban. It's hilarious because he can get away with it. Where he said, well, if you want 100% of everything, here you go. Jeremy said, right, we started low. We would have gone a lot higher. This is contract. If you're talking about the money part, he said, if you want 100% of everything, this is the number. It's higher. But these are the non-starters. This is contract. If you're talking about the money part, he said, if you want 100% of everything, this is the number, it's higher. This is the number, it's higher.
So it was only after the counteroffer, wanting more money because $50 million wasn't enough. The counteroffer was for $120 million and wanting zero pay cuts if he ended up getting banned from Spotify or iTunes or any platform that distributed his show, thus making less money for the Daily Wire because they would lose ad revenue from less people hearing the ads. Then the Daily Wire rebuffed the ridiculous counteroffer and cut off negotiations with Crowder, realizing that they have two very different ideas about how to monetize content and what Crowder's is worth.
As soon as he said that, I knew we'll never get to a deal. I can't guarantee $30 million a year. I didn't know how I was going to pay for 50. I thought, not that he isn't worth it, but that's a big risk. $120 million is an incalculable risk for a company our size. And then I just realized what I already knew in my heart, which is Steven's not a team player. That's not a knock. He has an enormous individual talent. But he's not going to be happy unless he's out on his own. And so I called him up. I said, hey, we're not going to send a follow-up offer. I want you to hear it directly from me, not from lawyers and agents. I said, but the kind of deal you're looking for is not the kind of deal that we can make.
And then with no money coming in from the Daily Wire because the deal fell through and no money coming in anymore from Mug Club, which all went to the blaze, Steven Crowder was desperate, so he concocted his scheme to secretly record his friend and know that wasn't a business call to pull off this publicity stunt, as I said, from the start, to energize his fans in hopes of getting them to sign up for paid memberships to his new Mug Club on his new website, Stop Big Con. There are a lot of details to get into. Even if you've been following this story and think that you know, stay tuned and subscribe to my channel if you're new here because you won't find this kind of independent and blunt analysis anywhere else. A major point that Crowder is claiming that he's trying to make is if a YouTube channel gets screwed, gets demonetized, loses sponsors, then the Daily Wire is doing the bidding of big tech because they punish the host by cutting the host's pay. If that happens, then the Daily Wire loses money, and so does the host. They can't keep paying a creator a top salary if that creator is not bringing in money for the company by getting demonetized or losing sponsors. That's how the advertising model works. It's flawed, it has weaknesses, yes, but only a fraction of people would pay a monthly subscription to content behind a paywall. Hence, almost everyone using advertisers, especially for new and smaller creators. How are they going to grow their channel and get new subscribers to watch them if the only way that people can see their videos in the first place is if they're behind a paywall. So the counteroffer has been confirmed, and it's confirmed that the Daily Wire broke off negotiations with Crowder after the counteroffer was rejected. The secretly recorded phone call Stephen made with his friend of 10 years, Jeremy Boring, was made 2 months after negotiations had ended. It was not a business call. It was part of Crowder's monetization scheme. Release the entire recording, Stephen. Everyone deserves to hear how you buttered up your supposed friend and asked him about how his Christmas was, and talked about your kids before you shifted the conversation to try to draw out a few sound bites about the Daily Wire's business model, which isn't even a secret at all. Release the entire phone call, Stephen. He won't do that. And Crowder didn't want to admit that the Mug Club membership money went to the Blaze and that his cash cow got cut off when that contract ended. He lost all Mug Club revenue, so he needed to do something to get his $100 million.
Did you guys have access to all your Mug Club subscribers and like the number of them and all that before you went into talks? Did you have that data? Because I would have based my entire contract off of that, not how long are you going to be monetized.
That was
on
our
YouTube.
biggest. That was our biggest problem, was that we didn't have a real good way. That's why we had to launch Mug Club Forever, is to make sure that we had everybody who wanted to, it was in Mug Club or wanted to sign up for it, and we could reach out to those people.
It's industry standard where they don't tell you, and they don't even necessarily have to tell you your number of
But it
viewers.
doesn't have to be.
They're not your paying subscribers. When Tucker Carlson promotes Fox Nation, the paid streaming service that Fox News runs, so that people can watch his long-form interview series there and shows from other people, if Tucker leaves and goes to Newsmax, he doesn't keep those paying subscribers or the money that they're bringing in or their contact information. Of course, Fox doesn't give that to Tucker. And the Blaze didn't give it to Crowder. So he wasn't going to bring a single dollar in Mug Club revenue to the Daily Wire. Everyone who was a paying member now has to sign up for his new Mug Club. Hence his desperation after the deal with the Daily Wire fell through. I saw a lot of comments in my previous videos from people saying, "I can't believe you're siding with the Daily Wire. You must want a job with them." But if you watch this whole video, you'll realize how moronic those kinds of comments are. This is hopefully my final video about the Crowder Daily Wire feud, because I'm tired of talking about it. But I wanted to clear up some things after his interview on Tim Pool, because a lot of people only got part of the story or half-truths and lies. A lot of big YouTubers avoided saying what they really think about this because they knew that they would end up offending half of their subscribers and probably lose a bunch of subscribers depending on what their take was. And I'm not on anyone's side. I'm a media analyst, not a cheerleader for any internet celebrities or politicians or anyone. Many even avoided addressing the situation at all because they're afraid to lose subscribers, lose the views that would come from those subscribers and the money. But I would rather earn the respect of those who get it than be like so many others who are afraid to actually say what's really going on. It's an interesting story about social media, fame, money, big tech, censorship, advertisers, cancel culture, and not to mention between two of the biggest brands in conservatism today, at least in the online space and the new media. And this is a business that I'm in. I know how the online ecosystem works, how MCNs work, which obviously Crowder fans don't. And if you read the comments in my last video on this, you may think, oh, everybody thinks that Steven Crowder is right, because there were a lot of comments supporting him because I was very critical of him, and a hit dog barks. So his fans all sounded off in the comments like someone who got bad food at a restaurant. They're the ones who make the noise, the people who are mad. And I'm sure that'll be the case in the comments section of this video too. So just a heads up to those who read them. But you're not gonna hurt my feelings, so have fun. And for those wondering, the first video I did on it got an over 95% thumbs up rating, and the second one still got an over 90% thumbs up. YouTube hides the dislike count now on all videos to prevent people from seeing how much corporate media sucks, but the channel owner can see them on the back-end analytics. And I heard there was a Chrome plugin that would show them, but I'm not sure if it's still works or if YouTube put an end to that. First of all, as you saw in that clip, he tried to deflect and change the subject and then reluctantly admits, yes, Jeremy Boring is correct. Team Crowder did counteroffer for a lot more money, even though earlier in the Tim Pool stream, Steven and his sidekick said they didn't make the counteroffer personally, but later admitted their agent did it for them. More half-truths and deflection from them. Linguistic games.
Money, 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 money.
Don't worry, Crowder fans. I'm going to get into the Daily Wire's dirty laundry too, so sit tight for a while. This is going to be a wild ride. In the Tim Pool stream, Crowder's sidekick also admitted that they are basically in bed with big tech too, playing ball with big tech because, well, have a look.
Yes, we're trying to speak the most truth to the greatest number of people possible. It's not, we can't just all have behind the paywall honest conversations.
Right.
Because then you don't affect people at the biggest possible, tech company out there.
Yeah, it's not
so
lost on
do
us.
that. But don't go so far as to play by this additional set of rules that really restricts what you're able to say.
And punish the creators, yeah. And punish the creators, yeah.
It's not that the Daily Wire contracts would punish creators if they get demonetized by a platform. If the channel in their network is demonetized and banned from a platform, then advertisers aren't reaching as many people, so the Daily Wire misses out on some money, or a lot of money. So then the host misses out on the money too. They share the loss, hence the pay cut. He's dancing with the same devil that he's attacking others for dancing with, while claiming that he's the one fighting against the devil.
We don't make a dime off of YouTube. We haven't for many years.
Yes, you do. It's the opening of your sales funnel. It doesn't matter that his channel is demonetized. It brings in Mug Club members. It is the advertising mechanism for you to get paid memberships. You wouldn't be streaming on YouTube if you weren't making any money doing it. He's being dishonest. Crowder also admits that he stopped selling one of his t-shirts, which he was selling off-platform on his own website, after YouTube called him and told him it would be a problem for his channel if he didn't.
There was one where they said you can't sell off-site the socialism shirt that we had, which wasn't even on YouTube. The socialism was for fig shirt, and YouTube says, well, you can't do that. That shirt is hate speech. It's off the platform. So what we ended up selling at the Crowder shop was a mystery box. And I get a call from one of the most senior executives at YouTube, and I go, what? They go, we know what's in the box. I was like, I'm thinking someone in Silicon Valley is opening it like, and so we stopped selling. But that's something that's completely off the platform. So we stopped selling.
But the point is, YouTube told you to stop. Stop doing this, they said, and they'll let you keep your channel, or you won't get another strike this time, which may lead to a ban, and so you did. But you're accusing the Daily Wire of bending over for big tech to avoid penalties. They do the same thing that Crowder does. Nobody wants to cut off their nose to spite their face. Let's keep dissecting this story point by point. He keeps saying that a friend wouldn't offer that kind of contract. What kind of contract? Where you could keep doing your show while getting paid $50 million, and the only thing that you would have to do different is do some ad reads from sponsors. But the Daily Wire can't pay him $50 million if they can't reach the same audience with their advertisers if he gets banned from a platform. So he would get a pay cut if he got banned from a platform like iTunes or Spotify or YouTube. And technically this wasn't even a contract, it was a term sheet, it was a rough draft document meant to start a discussion and a negotiation about a possible contract in the future that would be drawn up based on what they agreed upon. Crowder also says that he's just worried about the little people. It's not about him at all, it's about the young up-and-coming YouTubers that may get screwed by this kind of contract.
And not even for me, but for other people coming up facing these kinds of contracts.
Like Brett Cooper, the 20-year-old girl making tons of money and happy with her contract with the Daily Wire, who did a whole Instagram live stream about how grateful she is to work for them because they launched her YouTube channel for her and got her over 1 million subscribers in just a few months.
And I am incredibly, incredibly grateful for the opportunity and the privilege to be here and work with these incredible people. And like I said, it's not slavery, which is what Steven Crowder called it. It's a privilege.
She doesn't even have to touch a camera or edit her own videos or set up lights. Her videos are shot in the Daily Wire studio. But because of that, she doesn't own her show because she doesn't produce it. She didn't even start the YouTube channel. And just like Jay Leno doesn't own The Tonight Show, she doesn't own the comment section. That's the name of her show, if you're not familiar with it. Now about the ownership of Crowder's show. He was making it seem like the Daily Wire would own his entire show in perpetuity, which means forever, once the contract was up. Here, Crowder is either highly misunderstood or most likely lying again. Jeremy Boring even said on the taped phone call that Steven Crowder secretly recorded of his friend of 10 years that the Daily Wire only owns the content that they produce. Clearly, meaning in Crowder's case, if they produced any films for Steven, like they did with Matt Walsh for his What is a Woman documentary. That kind of content they would own. There's nothing revealed on that phone call that was a bombshell or even remotely surprising. It was common sense what Jeremy Boring was saying. And the reason the Daily Wire would have exclusive rights to his show during the contract is so he couldn't turn around and sell it to Newsmax or somewhere else and then make revenue over there as well and dilute the viewership for the Daily Wire's version. Just like The Tonight Show is on NBC exclusively. They can't turn around and then also air it on Comedy Central at the same time. I've been in this business for over 15 years. I've been to Hollywood many times. I've sat in the offices at the History Channel, HBO, Discovery Channel, Sci-Fi Channel. I've been in pilots for Showtime and other networks that never got picked up and featured in other shows that aired on some of those networks. So I know how these things work. A lot of people think that he had to record the call for his protection. It was a business call, they say. No, it was 2 months after negotiations had ended, and he called specifically to get audio to use in his publicity stunt. There was no need to record the call for his protection because all contracts have a very clear clause that says anything promised or even alluded to in discussions or emails or anywhere else means nothing. Only what's in the contract. That way nobody can later claim that someone said if they signed it they would get a Lamborghini for their birthday. So there was no need to record the call to protect himself from getting screwed. And again, the negotiations were over 2 months earlier. Not to mention it was shady as hell, highly unethical, and in many states, illegal. And why is it again, Stephen, that you won't release the entire call from start to finish? Anytime a YouTuber who already has a channel joins an MCN, they license all of their videos to the MCN, a multi-channel network. The MCN doesn't own the videos. It's a lease, basically. Anyone who has ever joined an MCN knows this. This is YouTube 101 if you get to the level where you're a full-time YouTuber. Everybody knows this. The MCN then monetizes the videos and gets you sponsors in the form of ad reads. Steven produces his own show in his own studio. So the Daily Wire would license rights to it so that they could say that he's part of the Daily Wire network. He wouldn't have had to do his show any different with the Daily Wire as far as guests or jokes or skits or topics. He would just have to do 4 ad reads per show, plugging sponsors, which would suck. I've never done an ad read. I get offers almost every single day for them though. But if you're going to make millions of dollars a year, that pretty much needs to be done. And there have been scandals over popular YouTubers promoting total garbage products or services, like one selling a square foot plot of land in Scotland and then saying that people could supposedly legally call themselves a lord. I recently heard, I won't mention their name, a popular syndicated talk show host on AM radio, who I like, but he did an ad read and has been doing them for weeks for mail order shrimp. Okay? Instead of buying shrimp at the grocery store, he is literally pitching mail order shrimp because it's better. It'll come in a box through the mail with a cold pack to keep it fresh. So I don't care if somebody paid me $10,000. I'm not going to promote something like mail order shrimp. And I'm sure that Steven Crowder didn't want to shill for a lot of companies either in order to get paid. He just wants to use a paid membership model. And I don't blame him. I think that's a great idea. I write books and sell t-shirts, although sales have dropped off because I haven't released a book for 2 years, and I'm working on some new t-shirts, so you can sponsor me this year directly through Patreon if you enjoy my content, which is basically a paid membership service that a lot of YouTubers use. Locals is another one that I may sign up for in the future. I have an account with them, but the membership paid part isn't set up. But let's keep going. Crowder says that the Daily Wire outed themselves. He didn't mention them by name in his first video about the terrible company that tried to screw him and every other YouTuber, but they had to respond because everybody already knew that it was them or thought that it was them. And if they didn't come out and give their side of the story, it would have looked even worse for them. So they were damned if they did, damned if they didn't. And again, I'll get into my issues with the Daily Wire in a minute. It's amazing how some people can't understand that this isn't black and white. There are many layers here. Crowder has always sucked up to conservative ink and didn't have some light bulb go off in his head like someone who escaped a cult. It was only after he wasn't able to make money off of them and had no money coming in from the Blaze that he decided to turn on them as a publicity stunt, hoping to get his fans to read join Mug Club so that he could start making money again. And again, for the Crowder fans who say that the $12.5 million a year, the $50 million for 4 years, wasn't going directly in his pocket, it was for production costs. So it's not that much money. He would still clear like $5 million a year personally. And when he says he has 25 or 30 employees, most of those are probably contractors who just work a few hours a week, not employees. There's a huge difference. There's no unemployment insurance. There's none of the other taxes that a business has to pay to the IRS when they're actually paying an employee versus a contractor. They're not the same. And most contractors that companies use don't work full-time in that capacity. And when he warned that if you sign a contract with these companies and you miss one upload, it'll cost you $100,000, he was full of crap.
Just to drive it home, don't sign something that has another $100,000 daily penalty if it's not signed off on beforehand. You get hit by a car, you have a sick day, you could lose $100,000 a day.
No, you would lose $100,000 because they're paying you to produce a show, and if the shows don't get posted, then they have to refund the advertisers. And the Daily Wire subscribers who are paid members may cancel because they're not getting what they paid for. So the Daily Wire passes that loss on to you and a small penalty to discourage you from doing it too often. He would have been paid $65,000 per show. So docking his pay $100,000 is basically the equivalent of him not getting paid for the episode he didn't produce and an extra 35% penalty on the next episode, or a 0.3% pay cut for the year. Not a 3% pay cut, a 0.3% pay cut. 1/3 of 1%. Oh no, how will he be able to buy food? He would only be obligated to make 192 episodes, by the way, per year, for a week. So he could easily make one up if he missed one. The penalty was only if he didn't make one up throughout the entire rest of the year if he missed one. And there was another clause in there. If he got injured or sick, the pay cut would be way different. So that's not even the same. The $100,000 penalty was only if he willfully decided to stop producing his show, which was being paid $65,000 an episode to do. I saw a lot of morons commenting in my last video on this. You just want a job for the Daily Wire. You're shilling for Big Con. No, and even if I did want a job with them, they would never, ever even consider hiring me. You have to clean Ben Shapiro's shoes with your tongue to work there. And I'm far too based, as the kids say, to work for any major network. Crowder still wants to shine Ben's shoes, though. The phoniest phony in Conservative Inc. The king of Conservative Inc. Well, I mean, maybe that's Sean Hannity, but you get the point. Ben Shapiro, the leading voice in conservatism today, supports gay marriage, posting this in response to somebody on Twitter who suggested that he was against it, saying he's been libertarian on same-sex marriage for years, meaning he supports it, before Obergefell, the Supreme Court case that legalized it. That's not conservative. He helped to enable the slippery slope that society is now spiraling down with his neocon agenda. Charlie Kirk's another one. He supports gay marriage and, even worse, adoption and surrogacy for them. That's what Conservative Inc. does.
I think it's cool you're married. I think it's great, and you should have all the same tax benefits. Adopt children. It's great, right? But
I feel the same way about you.
Well, it's fine. It's like whatever. Like
Charlie Kirk also welcomed drag queens into the movement. Here he is giving a thumbs up to Lady MAGA, a Trump-supporting drag queen who, in a normal society, would have been kicked out of the event immediately, not embraced by one of the leading voices in the conservative movement. And for those who don't know, Ben Shapiro pays Facebook $135,000 a month, not per year, per month, every month on average, to boost his posts, making him the most popular political pundit on all of Facebook. This is not a secret feature, by the way. They limit the reach to everything that everyone posts, but if you pay them, they will then change the algorithm and let it show up on more people's feed the more that you pay them. And the money that he has paid to them is publicly available on his Facebook page if you know where to look. It's part of Facebook's transparency policy that they made after some Russians bought some ads. It's hidden under a few links, but it's there. The Daily Wire is probably paying that much to YouTube as well. Ben Shapiro used to even advertise on my channel. So if they're paying Facebook and YouTube all this money, they're not going to be very likely to give them strikes or especially ban them. It's almost like they're paying the mob protection money. Ben even paid to advertise one of his books on Amazon using my name as the key word. So when people searched for my books, his book would show up in the search results above mine. And I don't even want to get into how a Daily Wire writer asked me for a free review copy of one of my books and never wrote the review. And then when I asked him what happened, he unfollowed me on Twitter and then turned off the DM thread. So either the editors wouldn't publish the review and he didn't want to admit that, or he just scammed me for a free book. But I'm leaning towards the editors at the Daily Wire just killed the review. And Ben Shapiro had that secret dinner with Mark Zuckerberg he doesn't want to talk about, at least one that we know of. That's old news if you've been following me. But one interesting thing to come out of the Tim Pool interview was that Crowder accused Ben of buying views on YouTube to deceive advertisers to get higher rates. So that's something that should be looked into. Two things are true here. This isn't an either or. The Daily Wire is part of Conservative Inc. Big Con is a dumb name that Crowder coined in the grain of big tech or big pharma. Big Con as in big conservative. But Crowder is pulling a big con. And to be fair, the Daily Wire does some great work. Nobody can say that Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman, didn't spark a great conversation about transgender issues, or that Candace Owens hasn't done more to fight against anti-whiteism than most white people. But as I've been saying, Crowder only turned on them after they turned down his counteroffer for more money. He's using this phony holier-than-thou publicity stunt to galvanize his fans so that they'll be more willing to support him financially since he has zero Mug Club revenue coming in now that he has left the Blaze. I used to respect him. I was never a fan. I never thought he was all that funny other than the skits that he did, but I respected what he did for conservatism, and I respected his success. But desperate people do desperate things. And he has no money from Mug Club coming in, and no money from the Daily Wire, and is probably, to a large degree, even lying to himself about what he's doing. So I hope that clears everything up. There's probably some minor points or things that I covered in my previous two videos that I didn't mention here. So before you come to a conclusion about what's going on, be sure to watch those reports of mine as well. And if you still disagree with me, that's fine, but that's my take on the whole thing. And if you don't want me to have to do ad reads, support me directly this year through my Patreon page, which is linked up in the description below, or Subscribestar, which is also linked up. Patreon and Subscribestar are basically ways to tip your favorite YouTubers $5 a month or however much you want to support them, because we all know that advertisements suck, but unlike Steven Crowder, I'm not going to throw my friends under the bus in order to try to avoid doing ad reads. So click the links in the description below to my Patreon or Subscribestar and check them out.